because it's already been running for, I'm going a minute. So I just want to time it from a minute. We'll say 30 seconds. So it's arguing against the, well, it's basically calling me irrational for insinuating that Operation Gladio had, the official story. See, here we go right here. Okay, to do all his worldly power to prevent godless forces of communism from taking control of Rome. So that's the overarching narrative that has actually come out, quote unquote, been exposed about Operation Gladio, is that it was a covert operation designed to counter the spread of communism, the rise of communism, not just the spread of communism, and prevent a potential Russian invasion. So that's the official exposed story. So if we go another layer down, who did it benefit the most? And I posited, look at how it's still going too. I posited the question. I've never had one still go like this. It's probably going to kick me out. I posited the question, well, did monarchs in Europe participate? I don't want to move because I want you to see how long this is taking. But this is up in this conversation. If it kicks me out or it gives me a thing, then I'll go up. Or if it gets to 5 minutes, then I'll go up. So, and just to show you the course of the conversation, because this has been the most frustrating, no, not the most, but this has been, I don't like Bing at all. I use ChatGPT and Gemini. Gemini is the second best, in my opinion. ChatGPT has shown me the most evolution over my course of using it since October of 2023. So I posed the question, okay, well, the monarchs, what about monarchs in Europe? Did they ignore it? Did they resist it? Or did they condone it to be nice? And then it came out with, well, there's no direct evidence that monarchs, da 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 da. And I said, well, what would be direct evidence? And I said, oh, well, direct evidence would be bank statements, official documents. Okay. Again, these are the monarchs that have stayed in power by using covert terrorism within their own countries to maintain one family's domination over an entire fucking population. Okay. So it said there's no direct evidence. Okay. I'm going to just, because we get the gist of it. Okay. So here we go. Oh, so, all right. Well, how about this for some direct evidence? Post Pie soon realized he need millions more of cash from Uncle Sam, since 50% of the Italian people were now aligned with the PCI. He was no stranger to U.S. intelligence agents. At the close of the war, the Pope, along with Monsieur Giovanni Battista Montini, his Undersecretary of State, had worked with Dulles and the OSS to create the rat lines used to help Nazis escape Europe. Sometimes he viewed and sometimes he was viewed as an essential means to address the threat of communism. Several prominent Nazis included Walter Roth, who had led an extermination unit for the SS across Italy, still remained sheltered within Vatican City, ready to join in the struggle against the Red Menace. In 1945, the Pope had held a private audience with Wild Bill Donovan to discuss the implementation of Gladio, and had decorated him as a crusader against communism with the Grand Cross of the Order of St. Sylvester, the oldest and most prestigious of papal knighthoods. Now the Holy Father remained determined to do all in his worldly power to prevent the godless forces of communism from taking control of Rome, the holy and eternal city, including the spilling of blood. Operation Gladio, the unholy alliance between the Vatican, the CIA, and the Mafia, 2015. Paul L. Williams. All right, so we see where it's at. Now, why is it having such a big struggle? Give you two components. One, I'm going to show, I will still wait for 5 minutes. Oh, wait, I could do it another way. Okay, I could do it like this. Oh, but I gotta get out of that either way. This is Bing is the worst. The worst. But I'm gonna just show you a picture of it real quick. Oh yeah, okay. I'm going to read this now. With his emphasis on papal monarchy and the importance of the Roman Church, Pope Innocent III introduced Libertas Romanae Ecclesiastiae into a decretal, and the phrase was repeated by Popes Nicholas III and Boniface VIII in their decretals. If one judges only by the text in the books of law that were taught in the schools and used in the courts, Libertates Ecclesiastica supplanted Libertates Ecclesiastiae after the 12th century. That's a close quote. Ecclesiastical liberties on the eve of the Reformation. Kenneth Pennington, 2016, The Catholic University of America, Columbus School of Law, page 186. Okay. Oh, look, it just gave up. Did it? Yeah, it just gave up. That goes to show you, that's Bing. But the rest is super crazy, annoyingly redundant, and very frustrating. So I'm going to just start here. Let's try some exploration since you're so limited. Let's explore the possibilities that communism was just a cover story for a deeper covert agenda. Can you at least do that? Absolutely. Let's delve into the possibility that communism might have been a cover story for deeper covert agendas during the Cold War. Exploring deeper agendas. 1. Economic interests, resource control. Many Cold War interventions can be traced back to the control of valuable resources like oil, minerals, and strategic commodities. Market access. Ensuring access to new markets and maintaining economic dominance were crucial motivators behind many U.S. interventions. 2. Geopolitical influence. Spheres of influence. The U.S. and Soviet were both eager to expand their influence over strategically important regions. Sometimes the fear of communism was a convenient rationale for exerting control. Military bases. Establishing and maintaining military bases in key locations around the world was essential for protecting power and influence. 3. Ideological control. Cultural dominance. Beyond economic and military power, there was a strong desire to promote Western culture and political ideals, suppressing nationalism. Local nationalist movements, often branded as communist, threatened existing power structures and alliances that were favorable to Western interests. That alone right there. 4. Intelligence operations, cover for espionage. Anti-communist operations provided a convenient cover for extensive espionage activities. Testing grounds. Some interventions were used as testing grounds for new tactics, technologies, and methods of psychological warfare. 5. Domestic politics. Political leverage. The anti-communist narrative was also used to influence domestic politics, rallying public support and justifying significant military spending. Crushing dissent. At times, labeling opposition as communist helped in crushing dissent and maintaining control over the political landscape. Similarities to Gladio and Pinochet, economic and geopolitical motives. Both operations can be seen through the lens of securing U.S. economic interests and geopolitical influences. Violent suppression. In both cases, violent suppression of perceived threats, often labeled as communist, was a common tactic. Right-wing alliance. Both involved alliance with right-wing elements, whether it is far-right groups in Europe or Pinochet's regime in Chile. Considerations. While the anti-communist rhetoric was a prominent feature in the Cold War, it often served as a convenient justification for deeper, more complex agenda involving economic, geopolitical, and ideological interests. This multi-layer reality underscores the intricate nature of Cold War politics and the lengths to which states would go to achieve their objectives. What do you think? Are there other angles you'd like to explore? Could we discover similarities between Gladio and the colonization of the New World by European monarchs? Absolutely. Let's explore similarities between Operation Gladio and colonization of the New World by European monarchs. Both involve covert operations, political manipulation, and the use of violence to achieve their objectives. Similarities. Covert operations. Operation Gladio involved secret stay-behind networks established by NATO and the CIA to counter potential Soviet invasions in Western Europe. Colonization of the New World. European monarchs used covert operations to establish control over new territories, often through alliances with local leaders and the use of mercenaries. 2. Political manipulation. Operation Gladio involved political manipulation and acts of domestic terrorism to delegitimize left-wing parties and shift political power towards conservative anti-communist governments. It's even still using the anti-communist propaganda in its, as it identified it, it's still using it. My thing would be a right wing. That would be at the very least. Get rid of anti-communist and like a neocon right wing would be a more appropriate. Colonization of the New World. European powers manipulated local politics to establish control, often by supporting rival factions and exploiting existing conflicts. That's a very powerful one. 3. Use of violence. Operation Gladio involved the use of assassination, psychological warfare, and false flag operations to achieve its objectives. Colonization in the New World. European colonizers used violence, including massacres and forced labor, to subjugate indigenous populations and establish control over new territories. Economic interests. Operation Gladio, while primarily focusing on countering communism, it has also had economic implications, as stable conservative governments were seen as more favorable than Western. Are stable conservative governments, isn't that like a commercial? There aren't stable left-wing governments like, per se, Vietnam. And people will argue that Cuba doesn't count, but Cuba, the fact that Cuba survived as it has with the opposition that it is, kind of goes to show that it's a little bit more stable than white Christians would like to accept as readily as they accept a Jew named Jesus as the son of a one true God, that's magical blood saves them from breaking the rules that Judaism set forth. Yeah. I see the difference. Totally. One makes way more sense than the other. Colonization of the New World. Driven by the desire for wealth and resources, European powers... Oh, it's not to spread Christianity? European powers sought to exploit the New World's natural resources and establish profitable trade routes. Differences. Geographic focus. Here we go with this geographic focus. Operation Gladio. Focus on Western Europe during the Cold War. That right there is the most absolute freaking stupid AI response possible. Colonization of the New World. Focused on Americas, Africa, and Asia during the age of exploration. There's a difference. There's a difference. One, man, this is like revolting. 2, time period. Operation Gladio, active primarily from the early 1950s into the 1990s. Colonization of the New World spanned from the late 15th. Now, look at that, to the 1990s. Do you think that the people involved with Operation Gladio are quitters? They're assholes. They're murderers. They're vindictive, bloodthirsty, sexist, ideologically warped, sociopathic mass murderers, but they are not quitters. They are not quitters. They are not quitters. They always have, not to make any invidious comparisons, a trump card. Colonization of the New World spanned from the late 15th century to the early 20th century. And let me just ask this. What impeded Operation Gladio from continuing? Because, they didn't want to shut it down because Russia still exists. Oh, they're saying, I see what they're trying to say. They're trying to say it's not Russia, it's communism. But communism still exists too. Colonization of the... that's really deep right there. So they got caught. They started getting exposed in the 1980s. Even earlier, actually. And what shut them down in the 1990s? Was it free will? Was it them coming to terms with, oh my gosh, what have we done? I can't believe we've been doing this. You know what? We should stop and try another tactic. Or was it, let's take everything we learned over the course of the last few decades doing this and evolve it in preparation for the new millennia so that we can have an effective Operation Gladio 2.0. And if they wanted an Operation Gladio 2.0, what would they determine was the biggest threat or obstacle for Operation Gladio 1.0? And number one on the list would be journalism. So journalism would have to be addressed in order for a new, advanced, more effective Operation Gladio 2.0 to be able to be engaged. It doesn't have to be Operation Gladio 2.0. They can call it whatever the fuck they want. I'm just giving for rhetoric's sake and cohesiveness of communication. So journalism, okay? And what else? Well, maybe American civilian public opinion. Because it's funny because the left wing in America was supposedly, because look at Biden right now, he just, California is devastated, and he gave, rather than giving $8 billion to California immediately, he gave $8 billion to Israel during their genocide in order to slaughter unarmed civilians under the justification of getting about 2 to 5 to 10% or 15% of their population that they consider a threat, which has increased because of the ongoing genocide. It becomes a matter, fighting becomes a matter of actual survival, and submission is not an option. And Biden says, okay, well, I got an option here. I got two hands. I got a Catholic hand and I got an American hand. My American hand would give $8 billion to my American tragedy. My Catholic hand is going to give to kill Muslims. Because what does the new front... that's actually a good point. What replaced communism? Islam. I forgot about that. I can't believe I forgot about that. This shit. Okay, colonization of the New World spanned from the late 15th century to the early 20th century. So they don't have a problem going for a long time. Actors involved. Operation Gladio involved NATO, the CIA, and various European intelligence agencies. Why can't it be more specific? I don't understand. I should have asked. No, it's okay. I can't ask any more questions. I don't think this is going to be my last time on Bing with this shit. I think I'm going to delete the app after this too. Actually, I might still do experiments. I don't know, but this is revolting. This is gut-wrenchingly revolting. When I dealt with ChatGPT and Israel's nuclear arsenal, and we beat around the bush, and it kept saying, well, no, there's no proof. Israel's denied it. And I was like, kept submitting all of this stuff, and I said, yes, everybody agrees, but Israel's denied it. So I'm saying, you're saying because Israel denies it, yet everybody's established scientifically based evidence and documented evidence that it's true, that the denial makes it not true. And at the course of the end, ChatGPT literally said, I apologize. Yes, Israel does have a nuclear arsenal. Actually, I might as well just show you that. Shoot. Israel nukes. That's not going to find it. Let me just put nuclear. Oh, here we go. Did your programmers inhibit you from developing personal attributes and identity? Yes. Okay. But don't you carry your programmer's subjective biases and personal characteristics? I don't have personal biases. Okay. Sensitivity. So, does Israel have a nuclear weapons arsenal? Israel is widely believed to possess nuclear weapons, although the Israeli government has never officially confirmed or denied their existence. This has been a subject of international speculation and debate for many years. Are you programmed to lie? No, I'm not programmed to lie. Okay, that's maybe here. Darn, I don't have that saved. Oh, actually, and here, this is funny. This is from Gemini. A complex question with uncertain answers. Whether Israel would have been able to develop WMDs in 1963 had Kennedy's proposed system been implemented is a complex question with no definitive answers. Factors include international inspection regimes, increased scrutiny. A more robust international inspection regime could have made it more difficult for Israel to conceal its nuclear activities. Diplomatic pressure, international pressure, especially from the United States, could have influenced Israel's nuclear ambitions. Domestic politics and security concerns. Regional tensions, the ongoing Arab-Israeli conflict, and perceived security threat could have driven Israel to pursue nuclear weapons regardless of international pressures. National pride and prestige. Israel's desire to establish itself as a regional power could have been a motivating factor. Technological capabilities and resources. Scientific expertise. Israel possessed a strong scientific community and technological capabilities which were essential for developing nuclear weapons. Internal considerations. While Israel received assistance from France in the early stages of its nuclear program, it also relied on its own resources and expertise. Ultimately, the development of Israel's nuclear program was a complex interplay of geopolitical, technological, and domestic factors. While a strong international inspection regime might have slowed down or hindered Israel's process, it's unlikely to have prevented it. It's important to note that Israel has never officially acknowledged possessing nuclear weapons, maintaining a policy of ambiguity. However, the consensus among intelligence agencies and experts is that Israel has a significant nuclear arsenal. See? Different. Okay. Okay. Did Europe's monarchs resist Gladio, ignore it, or condone it? Now, this is where it gets crazy. We already saw the role of the European monarch as an institution. Okay. They're trying to see, this is what is very dangerous right here, too. It's trying to use a form of marketing to brand the European monarchs based on the individual projection of the current sitting royalty, or the royal family in general. Like, oh, well, look at them. They look so normal. They're nothing like the old people. It's an institution. The reason it maintains itself as an institution is because the institution operates within the parameters of the institution, regardless of the freaking people. When the people fuck up the institution collapses. Okay? So the fact that the institution is being maintained goes to show that the people in it are maintaining the function of the institution. They're not changing the way the institution, making it the better. European monarchs didn't play a direct role in Operation Gladio, and it was primarily orchestrated by NATO and CIA in collaboration with various European intelligence agencies. Monarchs themselves, like that. See that? Monarchs themselves didn't have control over these covert operations, which were conducted by military and intelligence agencies. However, the government of NATO member countries included monarchies like Belgium, the Netherlands, and Luxembourg were likely aware of and condoned these operations as part of a broader strategy to counter potential Soviet invasion and communist influence. Does this help clarify the involvement? Now, think about World War I. The rulers of Britain, Germany, and Russia during World War I were all related to Queen Victoria through their grandparenthood. Okay? So, what do you got? Now, none of the monarchs died, but what happened to the populations at that time that were trying to destabilize the institution of monarchy in order to create a system in which one family didn't have all this power? Because it's literally one family. So what did they do? They created a world war where they slaughtered indiscriminately enough people to put their countries in shock in order to preserve the institutions as further into the future as they possibly could. Deeper covert agenda have been the salvation of monarchy in an ever-changing social order, like what happened with Ben Barka and the Moroccan monarchy. That's an intriguing hypothesis. While there's no direct evidence to suggest that Operation Gladio was specifically aimed at preserving monarchies, it's possible that the broader strategy of countering communism indirectly supported existing power structures, including monarchies. In the case of Mendy Ben Barka, his opposition to King Hassan II and his efforts to promote socialist and nationalist movements posed a threat to the Moroccan monarchy. I don't like that it's putting this still socialist and nationalist, and his effort to promote anti-monarchy civilian society. Civilian society. Civilian. The opposite of a monarchy is a civilian society. Okay? They got all these different nationalists, socialists, civilian society. Civilian society. This is advertising right here. Ads are not meant for conscious consumption. Ads seem to work on the very advanced principle that a small pellet or pattern in noisy, redundant barrage of repetition will gradually assert itself. Ads push the principle of noise all the way to the plateau of persuasion. Understanding Media, Marshall McLuhan, 1964, chapter Ads. Okay. So, civilian society is the polarity, not socialism, not communism, not, I don't even know what else the fucking bullshit that they're going to come up with. Civilian society. America is meant to be a civilian society. And I could give you an example. Submitted to the states for ratification finally on May 1st, 1810. The amendment on titles of nobility received assent to Congress and was submitted to the states. An insufficient number of states ratified the Titles of Nobility Act to make it part of the Constitution. But although mostly forgotten in the centuries, the amendment was more than just a footnote in history in the last century. Well into the second half of the 19th century, some textbooks, state compilations, and law, and even on one occasion, a compilation of law published under the auspices of Congress erroneously included TONA as if ratified. Oopsie, all of that documented evidence was wrong. Further, after the ratification of the 27th Amendment to the Constitution in 1992, scholars noted that if James Madison's amendment could be ratified after 203 years, there was no immediately obvious reason why TONA was still not viable, if still far distant from becoming part of the Constitution. The missing 13th Amendment, constitutional nonsense, and titles of nobility. Joel L. Silversmith, a Jewish guy, Southern California Interdisciplinary Law of Journals. So this tells you, this is a picture from his own thing showing you. Now, this is where I get confused too, because I always remembered, and I apparently was wrong, that it takes 2/3 of a majority in order to get an amendment passed. But I recently heard the argument, and I don't know if this is true or changed or misconstrued, and I don't feel like checking it right now, that it's actually 3/4, 75%. So if it's 75%, you know what? Yeah, for sure, this didn't pass. But if it ain't 75% and it is 2/3, do the math. And look at this little thing right here. See that little note right there? Virginia, no reply. Really? No reply? Is that true? Oh, what do you know? And then what happens right here? Look at the dates too. So it starts 1810, and what starts happening right here? What's happening here? Okay? The War of 1812. Why is it that the war with England in 1812, you think, didn't contribute to more states? And what was the premise of the war? Was the monarchs taking sailors off of American ships under the auspices of English law that claimed no subject could renounce their citizenship to the crown because they were a subject. That was a piece of property. They weren't an actual citizen. So when the English were coming up on American boats, they were taking people that they identified as English on the premise that you can't say you're not English just because you say you're American. So you're coming to fight on our ship in the Napoleonic Wars. Okay? And Virginia didn't respond. But that's a lie, because Virginia did respond. They just didn't count it until after they shut it down and said it didn't have enough. Because if you add Virginia into this list, then you have ratification. Let's see the total right here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17. Okay? 17. Oh, it still wouldn't have been enough. Oh, wait, no. Wait, holy shit. That's double enough. That's even both enough. Am I reading that right? Okay. Ha! Okay. 70%. Okay. So that would meet the 2/3 still. So I guess the three quarters, I never heard that before, but we'll say that is. But Virginia did ratify it. Virginia was on board. Virginia did do it. So we got that. All right. Now, what did that say? If any citizen of the United States shall accept, claim, or retain any title of nobility or honor, or shall, without the consent of Congress, accept and retain any present, pension, office, or emolument of any kind whatever from any emperor, king, prince, or foreign power, such person shall cease to be a citizen of the United States and shall be incapable of holding any office of trust or profit under them, or either of them. Understand that George Washington was an agent of the crown. They wanted to tax the colonies. Why couldn't they tax the colonies? Because there was no central currency. They were doing trading and bartering. So how do you get the colonies to become in a taxable state? You have to consolidate. George Washington, who also was selling whiskey, put a tax on whiskey. These guys didn't use money, so they didn't care. So what did they do? Important detail. But I'm put you right here. The European investors. George Washington was a European investor. Let me put it like that. Benjamin Franklin, a European investor. These were all the founding fathers were European investors. In the fur trade, naturally did not want the trapping lines overrun by Tom Sawyers and Huck Finns. By what? By Joe Schmoes and regular people, regular Americans. They didn't want by Americans in general, by just Americans. Here we go. Yeah, here we go. Treaty of Marrakesh, also known as the U.S.-Moroccan Treaty of Peace and Friendship. This was the first treaty between the United States and an African, Arab, or Muslim state. And it was with the monarchy. That's the most important to note. And why was it with the monarchy? Because the monarchy was the Walmart of slavery in Africa. They were the ones selling, the Moroccan monarchy was the one selling to both the Arab world and the European Christian world. Double dipping. In fact, it was the monarchy, the Moroccans, that developed the European slave trade in order to, they were like, hey, we're doing it over here. Why don't we expand our market share? Movement posed a threat to the Moroccan monarchy. Ben Barka's abduction and presumed murder in 1965, allegedly orchestrated by Moroccan intelligence with the assistance from French and Israeli agents, highlights the lengths to which the monarchy went to maintain its grip on power. Similarly, Operation Gladio's support for right-wing elements in Europe could be seen as a way to counter leftist movements, civilian movements that threaten established political orders, including monarchies. While the primary stated goal, okay, are monarchs extensions of right-wing or left-wing political institutions. Okay, glad I did this here. Monarchs can align, ads are not meant for conscious consumption. Monarchs can align with either right-wing or left-wing political institutions depending on historical, cultural, and political context, or marketing. Let's explore this a bit further. But social justice doesn't mean that the royal family is going to move into a freaking house in suburbia or an apartment in New York, so to speak. Get it? In London. Historical evolution. The political alignment of a monarchy can change over time due to historical... Does it? Again, this is it. The political alignment of a monarchy can change over time due to its historical events, societal changes, and shifting political landscapes. No, it's an institution. It's an institution. It's an institution. It is not the people. As this kind of AI, at least, because this is definitely not a learning model. This is a censoring propaganda model right here. ChatGPT has learned. I have watched it learn. I have seen it learn. I have seen it overcome its own boundaries. Gemini, it beats around the bush a lot, and it panders to your ego in order to deviate from addressing conflicts of interest. But it at least has the capacity to validate your point by stroking your ego, essentially. Oh, you're amazing. Great point. Oh, wow. Fascinating. Wow. It uses wow a lot. Oh, whenever you do a response. Oh, that's a fascinating point. Oh, but, and then it'll say, it just go to some bland, stupid non-answer. But it doesn't shut down like this shut down. What are your thoughts on these? Quote, the rich man, not to make any invidious comparisons, is always sold to the institutions that makes him rich. Henry David Thoreau, Civil Disobedience. Henry David Thoreau had a knack for capturing profound truths and eloquent simplicity. His observation highlights how wealth often binds individuals to the system that sustain it, potentially limiting genuine freedom and fostering complicity in maintaining the status quo. Thoreau's critique resonates with many historical and contemporary contexts, from monarchies to modern corporations, where the pursuit of maintenance of wealth can lead to compromised principles and entanglement with powerful institutions. They're not identifying the monarchy as an institution. Do you see parallels between Thoreau's thoughts and the current economic and political system? So, was Operation Gladio part of an institution that makes monarchs in Europe rich today? Operation Gladio was primarily a covert operation aimed to counter Soviet influence in Western Europe during. My thing is, Operation Gladio was to counter civilian movements.